Hello everyone, welcome to this mini lecture on alternative thinking styles. To quote Albert Einstein, "The world we have created is a product of our thinking. It cannot be changed without changing our thinking." Whenever we experience any kind of emotion, this emotion is always accompanied by a set of thoughts. As different people experience life in different means, their thinking styles will vary from person to person. In a way, thinking styles are preferred ways of applying one's intellectual abilities and knowledge to a problem. But intelligence is one, and the thinking style is something different. Two people may have equal levels of intelligence, but differ on how they think about a task. In this lecture, we are going to introduce two different styles or approaches to thinking: the sponge approach and the panning for gold approach. Let's start from the sponge approach. Like a sponge that is characterized by its ability to absorb water, the sponge approach is defined by the reader's absorption of all the information that they researched and developing a foundation to build their own conclusion. This approach to thinking has some clear advantages. First, the more information one absorbs about the world, the more capable one is to understand its complexities. The knowledge one has acquired provides a foundation for more complicated thinking later. The sponge approach primarily involves concentration and memory. A second advantage of the sponge approach is that it is relatively easy. Rather than requiring strenuous mental effort, it tends to be rather quick and simple, especially when the material is presented in a clear and interesting way. Along with advantages are disadvantages. Though absorbing information provides a productive start towards becoming a thoughtful person, the sponge approach has a serious and devastating disadvantage. It provides no method for deciding which information and opinions to believe and which to reject. If readers rely on the sponge approach all the time, they would believe whatever is printed on a page. As a matter of fact, it is important for readers to choose what to take in and what to give up. To make this choice, readers must read with a special attitude, a questioning attitude. Such a thinking style requires active participation in the reading process. Reading is an interaction with the writing. While writing, the writer is trying to speak to the reader, and when you are reading, you should try to talk back to the writer, even though they are not physically present. We call this interactive approach the panning for gold style of thinking. Panning for gold, or looking something important while discarding anything that is irrelevant, is a more active approach to the gathering of information, and the readers are free to ask as many questions as they deem necessary. The process of panning for gold provides a model for active readers and listeners, and they try to determine the worth of what they read and hear. Distinguishing the gold from the gravel in the written text or conversation requires you to ask frequent questions and to reflect on the answers. Up to now, we have seen that the sponge approach emphasizes knowledge acquisition, while the Panning for Gold approach stresses active interaction with the source materials. Thus, the two approaches complement each other. To pan for intellectual gold, there must be something in your pen to evaluate. In addition, to evaluate arguments, we must possess knowledge, that is, dependable opinions. Let us examine more closely how the two approaches lead to different behaviors. What do the believers of the sponge approach do when they read a material? They read every sentence carefully, trying to remember as much as they can. They may underline or highlight keywords in the sentences. They may take notes and summarize the major topics and the key points. They check their understanding on notes, making sure that they are not forgetting anything important. Their mission is to find and understand whatever the author has to say. They memorize the reasoning, but do not evaluate it. What do readers who take the Panning for Gold approach do? Like those using the sponge approach, they read with the hope that they will acquire new knowledge. But this is where the similarity ends. The Panning for Gold approach requires that readers ask themselves a number of questions designed to uncover the best available decisions or beliefs. Those who use the Panning for Gold approach frequently ask why the author makes various claims. They write notes to themselves in the margins, indicating problems with the reasoning. They continually interact with the material with the intent to critically evaluate the material and formulate personal conclusions based on the evaluation. The most important characteristic of the Panning for Gold approach is interactive involvement, a dialogue between the writer and the reader. Human beings are prone to errors. Even famous writers are no exception. So in your reading, it is all very natural for you to come across inadequacies in argument. However, the inadequacies in what someone says will not always leap out at you. You must be an active reader in the first place. You can do this by asking questions. The best reading and thinking strategy is a critical questioning strategy. A powerful advantage of such a strategy is that it enables you to ask probing questions even when you know very little about the topic being discussed. For example, you do not need to be an expert on childcare to ask critical questions about the adequacy of daycare centers. To sum up, in this mini lecture, we compiled two thinking styles: the sponge approach and the Panning for Gold approach. The sponge method is reacting like a sponge would do with water. It absorbs all the information that the reader has access to. The Panning for Gold approach consists of an interactive process. Using the Panning for Gold approach, you must frequently question the outcome as part of the process to critically evaluate and make better informed decisions. The sponge approach emphasizes knowledge acquisition, while the Panning for Gold approach stresses active interaction with the writer as the reading progresses. That's all for this mini lecture. Thank you for your watching.